on Tuesday, here on Texas Football Today, we revealed our 40 under 40, the best young coaches in Texas, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We revealed the honorees this year. Of course, they're still great coaches, and with only 40 spots, you're going to leave off some fantastic coaches. For example, Barrick Neely is not on there. Barrick Neely is the running backs coach at UTEP. I think he's fantastic, right? As was mentioned, Riley Dodge was not in there. Part of that is because Riley Dodge was on the past couple of years. But, yeah, we want to give spots to other people. But it got me thinking, and one thing I thought about was, I don't know a time in which Texas high school football has had such a great depth of young coaching. Mm-hmm. I think there's just an outstanding – I think, needless to say, there is this older generation of coaches who are fantastic.
Right. The Randy Allens, the Gary Josephs, the guys that have been tenured, you could
OGs.
say. There you go, tenured.
The
is a good
OGs.
way.
There's this outstanding crop of legends at the top, but I also think like the new generation's here, and you've got this really good generation of young coaches who are coming up. Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking about the depth of coaching in this state, and it got me thinking about, man, there are some really, really good coaches that nobody talks about. Yep. Like, we just don't talk about enough. Not that nobody talks about them.
Right.
But we don't talk about them from a statewide perspective enough. And so I started thinking about who are, in my mind, the most underrated coaches in Texas high school football. Who are the ones who are flying under people's radar that we should be talking about more and more, but maybe we haven't. And so what I did was, here's the order of operations here. What I did was I made my list. Mm-hmm. I came up with a list of 10 that I thought off the top of my head, I was like, these are guys that I think are super good coaches that probably do not get the attention from the statewide level that I think their coaching talent level would normally get.
And I think this is, like, to precursor this, a good thing to say is we understand that everyone in these region knows how good these specific coaches are. You don't have to yell at us. We think that they're fantastic coaches. This is just saying from a statewide perspective
that, like, if you were to ask John Q, Texas high school football fan, about great coaches, they would rattle off some of the names we were talking about.
Scott Surratt,
Scott Surratt, Phil Danaher, Tim Buchanan, Randy Allen, right? Gary Joseph. There are some old, I don't mean that. There are some standbys, right? Some old standards, right? That you go, yeah, these are great coaches. That
household
are known.
names.
Scott Surratt's not going to be on my list.
Right.
Because everybody at this point, if you don't know that Scott Surratt's a great coach, that's on you.
Get
right?
the 60-second edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
So.
You and your bud.
Here, so what I did, the order of operations, because I didn't want to poison this well.
Okay.
I came up with my list of 10, and then I threw it out on Twitter, and I said, who's on your list? Mm-hmm. And there was some overlap.
Yes.
There was some overlap, and so I want to show you my 10. My picks for 10 of at least the most underrated coaches in Texas high school football this year. I also left this up to only active head coaches.
That's good.
If we start getting into the defensive coordinators, then we'll be here all day, right? Because there are so many great guys who haven't had a shot to be head coaches yet. I went Brady Carney at Munster. I think Brady Carney at Munster is so grossly underappreciated what he does there. He's one of the most successful coaches in Texas that nobody talks about.
He's so consistent.
Unbelievable. I mean, and I think what he does there at Munster is so, and part of it I think is that he only has that one title, right? And that's not fair. But he only has that one title. But you're talking about a guy who right now, I've got my spreadsheet up. Brady Carney has a record of 128-22.
That's insane.
Okay, he has a higher winning percentage. He has a higher winning percentage than D.W. Rutledge. I mean, he has been incredible.
And at that level, too.
For sure. At the small school level where there's so much turnover.
Right.
Chris Tackett at Windthorst was another one that sprung to mind. And I think that people are starting to figure out, because of their state championship, that I think that people are figuring out that he's a really good coach. And I think this is an important caveat to hand out. we talk a lot about Winthorpe's title last year as an upset because it was. It was an upset to go and beat Mart, the number one team, the undisputed team in 2A Division II. Undisputed best team in 2A Division II. Like, they were the clear favorite. It was an upset. But what Chris Tackett's been doing at Winthorpe for a long time has been really impressive. And it was a really good team last year, and he's always had really good teams. And so you can hold those two thoughts in your head at the same time. It was an upset to beat Mart, and what Chris Tackett has done at Winthorpe over the course of his career there has been exceptional. Mm-hmm. Craig Stump at Humble Atascocita is another one. The former Texas A&M Aggie, of course. I think we take for granted how consistent Atascocita is. Yep. I think it's hard in a big school district like that to be as good as they are every single year, but he is. And I think that's in large credit to what Coach Stump does at Atascocita. Manny Gomez at Harlingen. Part of this is this is pure geography. Yep. It's like people people statewide, because the RGV is not competing for state championships. They don't think about there being great coaches, but Manny Gomez is 122-40 in his head coaching career. Yeah. Manny Gomez has a better winning percentage than Todd Dodge.
Yep.
Okay, Manny Gomez has been exceptional at Harlingen. Craig Horn at Italy is another one. Another one in the Central Texas area. A guy who was 123-42 in his career. I mean, a guy who has been just exceptional as the head coach there.
And a guy that does not want to be put in the spotlight.
No.
He loves it.
You covered an Italy game,
yep,
right?
I covered Italy and Rio Vista in the playoffs, and he was,
he's happy to hang back.
He will talk to you, and he will give you great answers. He's a super nice guy, but he loves X's and O's.
Yeah, he's a bit of a wonk. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And those guys, maybe part of it is to be a big time head high school football coach, like a big name. I think you
have to put yourself out there.
You do have to put yourself out there, and I think if you hold yourself back, then that might be something that maybe people don't necessarily realize. Another one that I think is in the private school ranks is David Bowden at Fort Worth Nolan.
Pick.
I think what he has done at Nolan has been exceptional. He's turned them into a private school powerhouse, and every single year you know what you're getting from them. This is a guy who is 40-15 there at Nolan. He's 73-20 overall. And every single year, and they have a lot of turnover because the private school ranks inherently have more turnover, but he is consistent as the day is long. I think David Bowden's super underrated. Brent Sniffen at Belton is another one. I think he does such an incredible job at Belton, and part of it, I think, is that Belton itself is a little bit underrated. I think it's fair or not, and Belton fans are going to be very mad when I say this, but like Temple, because they're down there, Temple kind of sucks up a lot of the oxygen in the room.
Oh, yeah.
But Belton, last year, kind of notwithstanding.
Right in between Austin and Waco. It's like people get spread out down there.
Right, and the other thing about him is because, last year obviously wasn't great for him in his first year, but here's a guy who he was in his first year. It didn't go as well as he was hoping it would go. But I think that better things are on the horizon. There's a reason that they went to him, because he was so good at Fort Bend Ridgepoint. And I think that I think he's a guy at Belton that is super underrated. Jake Walksmith at Shiner St. Paul is another one that, again, super underrated. And again, part of it is that because they are in Shiner, right? And Shiner, of course, the defending state champs, there's a lot of attention paid to them. Shiner St. Paul is routinely one of the very best private school teams in the state. And
their athletics program, we have family friends that both their sons went there. Their whole athletics program competes at like the highest level all the time.
It's incredible.
It's insane.
And what Coach Jake Walksmith does down there is 111-35 in his time there. He's been just exceptional. Rod Blunt at Navarro is another one that and part of it is they have not really been able to get over that hump, but they are so consistent. Every single year, they are so consistent. And a guy who, he's 34. I think he's 34. Let me make sure I get this right. He's 34-7 at Navarro. Before he was at Navarro, he was at Mathis, and he took Mathis to a semifinal, title game, semifinal back in 2015. It must have been semifinal in 2015. And he has been exceptional. I think he's super underrated. And I think another part of it is because they run the slot T. It's like they're not fancy.
They're not shiny.
It's
not the shiny toy.
Exactly right. And then Jamal Fenner at Austin LBJ. And I think that last year, hopefully, people started to realize what a good coach he was. And what I hope people realize is, yes, is it nice to have Latrell McCutcheon and Andrew Makuba on your team? 100%. And Jamal Finner will not apologize for coaching those two guys. But he is a guy that I think he stands on his own merits. And what Jamal Finner does there at Austin LBJ, I think that's a tough job. And what he does down there, I think has been very, very impressive in his 3 years there at Austin LBJ. Those are my picks for the most underrated coaches. That was off the top of my head yesterday while I was thinking about it.
Right.
What I did then was I threw it out on Twitter. And everyone came calling.
Yes.
Everyone wanted to tell me who they thought was the most underrated coach. And so this is an admittedly incomplete list of who the fans threw out there. And I won't read all of the names. If you're listening on the podcast, you can go to TexasFootball.com. We'll have this up there. But a good mix of guys here. Some of them, like, for example, I don't think, like, if you say that John Kay is underrated, like, I think I would reject that.
Yes.
I also think Coach K would reject that.
Yes.
But there are some other guys here that I do think are worthy of shouting out here. I think Chris Lancaster at Little River Academy is a great pick.
The Swole Bees, man.
What he's done has been exceptional. Very, very good. Jordan Black at Fort Bend Christian at the private school ranks, another one that I think is impressive. We've talked about what Mike Spradlin does at Rockwall Heath, what he did at Temple, what he's done all over. He is a program builder. Joseph Turner from Fort Worth Northside, of course, was on our 40 under 40 list.
Doug Warren from Wimberley.
Yeah,
I like that one a whole lot.
Well, and that's another example of a guy who, not a secret in Wimberley how good he is.
No, exactly.
You know? And
Regional.
I would even say to 4A fans, folks who cover 4A, I don't think it's a secret to them either because they are so consistent. Mark Bindle at Wichita Falls Riders, another one that popped up. Monty Stumbaugh at Hidalgo, who is a longtime Port Isabel coach and did incredible things down there in the Rio Grande Valley.
Matt Poe at Pottsboro strikes me as another one that we were talking about earlier that he kind of like Craig Horn that kind of likes just, everyone knows how good Pottsboro is, but he doesn't need to be put singularly in the spotlight.
Brandon Schmidt at Prosper was a name that came up a lot. BJ Gotti at Katy Pato is another one. Devin Doris at Azle was another one that came up a lot. Luke Blackwell's done incredible work at Mineola. And look, this is I might have missed one or two on here that are on the list, but after I tweeted that, this came up, and like whenever people started doing it, and what I spent my evening going is like, ooh, that's a good pick. Ooh, that's a really good pick. Ooh, yeah, I should have put him on there. Ooh, can I find a way to put him on there? And by the way, there were a couple on my list that I didn't include here. Like there were people who said Chris Tackett, and I'm like, yeah, right. I agree.
Yes.
He's already on my list. So I just think this is interesting, and I think what this says is, of course, Texas high school football is super regionalized, right? It's like you cover you follow your team, and generally speaking, you think your coach is good,
Matt Green on Lano
or a guy who's in your district, things like that. I get that. What I think is the bigger statement here is look at the depth of coaching here.
It's insane.
Right? I mean, we're talking about I can't count this, but this is probably 45 names.
Yeah. Ish.
Probably 45 names. And then you add in like mine, and there's another 55. We're talking about 55 guys we think are underrated.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about guys who are known to be fantastic head coaches.
Yeah.
We're talking guys that people think are underrated. And that in and of itself, I think, speaks to the incredible depth of coaching in this state.
Yeah.
And that's the real headliner for me here, is we can certainly agree on who should be on what list and things like that, and we're never going to come up with the same list, right? But what it does is all these guys are coaching in the same league. Yep. And that's pretty impressive. The fact that you're able to get that is awfully impressive. So,
and I think two names that really pop out is Alan Metzel at Gilmer and Trey Brooks at Rockwall. We're talking about them as being underrated head coaches, and they both last year was their first year as a head coach. Yeah. Like, that's insane.
I mean, it's been very. I mean, it's impressive, and this is not even to mention all the really good coordinators that were mentioned and a lot of assistants and stuff who are on the rise. There's a number of guys on this list, like on the 40 under 40, who are not on this.
Yeah.
And part of it was, they haven't coached a game yet. Like DJ Mann, our buddy DJ Mann out there at Lubbock Coronado.
Yeah.
I think DJ Mann's going to be successful.
Yeah.
He's going to be really, really good.
Eric Mims out at...
Eric Mims, Amarillo Palladuro. Like guys like that. I'm very interested. Kyle Westerberg at White House. Those guys I think are going to be successful. we just they haven't coached a game yet, and so I didn't
Right.
want to bog it all down with that. And so those are, to me, I think the exciting thing is that we get to watch all of them.
Yeah.
Is that all of them operate in the state of Texas, and the depth of coaching here in the state of Texas is just simply unmatched. And
It really
it's
is.
really, really impressive. So anyway, let us know in the comments who you think is the most underrated coach in Texas high school football. And if you say like Scott Surratt, or you say like Randy Allen,
Yeah,
or you say
like-
like Gordon Wood, I'm going to be mad. So don't say it. Okay. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.